Hi, welcome to ADHD Friendly. I'm Patty. I'm an ADHD and time coach. I help my clients to manage their time with more ease. So they're doing more of what's important to them and saving their energy by being more efficient. This is episode 212, and a quick overview. I'm going to be celebrating use of my desk treadmill. I'll talk about that. I also going to share my tip of this week, which is actually a tool. And then the main topic is how to begin prepping for the holidays when we have ADHD. I was feeling really overwhelmed, so I decided to make that my topic for this week. And then, of course, I'll highlight my book for the week. Let's jump in. And as always, I'm starting with a celebration. So I have a desk treadmill that sits underneath my desk so I can work at my desk while walking on it. And I've had it for years. I used it a bit when I first got it, but honestly, I have not used it in at least a year. It's just been sitting really pushed to the side of my desk. And when I did my reorganization and decluttering of my office, I really seriously debated just letting it go and putting it on like Facebook Marketplace and selling it. And then something moved me to just put it back, like move it to more centered directly in front of my monitor instead of to the side, which is where it was. And I realized that was what was creating resistance. So I centered it so it was directly in front of the computer. I needed to get a new desk chair that would sit on top of it without it falling over. So I needed a kind of a round base that fit within the treadmill itself, and it created ease. And now I'm using it several times a week, often several times a day. It helps me to focus more easily, which is really interesting. There's certain things I don't do when I'm on it, like when I'm working on the computer. I actually have to do a lot of writing. I don't find I can do that easily, but when I am using it and really, really enjoying it. So I wanted to celebrate that I found a way out of the all or nothing, like use it all the time or just get rid of it, and just found some opportunities to use it with more ease. So that's always one of my favorite hacks for my brain, is what else is getting in the way and what can I do about it? All right, so what I purchased this week, I needed a new smoke detector. So when we moved here to Illinois about 7 years ago, we had to put all new smoke detectors in the house. And I picked Nest smoke detectors. So I wanted to replace one that every time we put new batteries in, it kept telling us that the batteries were almost dead. And I was like, but we just replaced them because it was a battery operated one. And I just realized, okay, I can't depend on this. It's going off all the time, telling me that it has low batteries. So I went to replace it, and they don't make Nest smoke detectors anymore, apparently. So I went on my trusty Consumer Reports and found a well-rated one. This is Kidde, Kidde, smoke and carbon monoxide alarm, which I really wanted the combo. I got this on Amazon. They're $32.79 each. On CR, Consumer Reports, it had a score of 89 out of 100. The highest rated one was a 93 out of 100, and this was for battery operated CO detectors. So I'm just sharing this as the thing I purchased because I had to buy a few of them. And this for me was the most economical and most dependable. There were ones that were rated higher, up to 93 out of 100. I chose this one for several reasons. I always, want to encourage people, do what works for you, look at the different factors that are most important to you. But it is that time of year to consider, is your smoke detector still working? Do you just need to replace the batteries? It's, that time of year where it's a great time to go ahead and check them and replace them, make sure that they're functioning, do a test. And if you do need new ones, looking at they've changed a lot in the last few years. So looking at what's important to you and picking one so that you're keeping yourself and your family or pet family, loved ones safe. All right. So now on to my ADHD friendly tool for this week. And that is a label maker. I just love my label maker. So this guy is many years old, probably 10 at least. A little dusty because I leave him out all the time. And I use this for so many things. It is an absolute game changer, and even more so when we have ADHD brains. And I'm going to share why by sharing a few of my favorite ways to use it. So this is a Brother P Touch. I'll go into a little bit more details on that in a minute, but first I want to share what I use it for. So the most recent thing I used it for was my medicine cabinet, where I went in and updated the labels on the bins to make sure they reflected what medicine was in them when I did my inventory this year. So I have ones that say flu and cold, one for allergies, one for digestive health, and one for first aid. And seeing the labels makes it really clear, not only where the medicine is that I need for what's going on, but where to put it back, which if they're not labeled, it's not just me going in there, it's every member of my family. So they'll get grabbed and put back in the wrong place, and it just becomes a cluttered mess. So labels, labels, labels. Of course, I use them for files and file holders, so they're neat and easy to use. If I handwrite them, I just resist looking at them. I hate having to process my own handwriting. It's very, I call it ADHD font. It's just not what I would like to be reading on my labels. So I love it for that. I also like to label sections in binders and even on the spine of the binder. So when I put my binders on a shelf, I can read what they are because I've printed it out. And of course, with the label maker, you can print so the letters print vertically down the spine as opposed to horizontally, so you don't have to read it sideways. So, you can kind of use it to make it work for what you're labeling. I also love to label the shelves and drawers in my closets and bins that are storing things in. Even if I have a clear bin that I can see into it, it takes more effort to try to look through it than just to label what's in there. So I can just look and see very easily what's in there. I also label cabinets in my kitchen, what goes, like plates, bowls, cups, coffee mugs, just to keep, again, when different people empty the dishwasher, there's no confusion. So if everything was kind of emptied out of that section and it's all dirty in the dishwasher, you know where it goes back and it's really clear. And it just keeps everything running more smoothly. It seems like a simple, like I shouldn't need to do that. But again, it's been a game changer in my family. We're all impacted in different ways. So it just makes it easier for people to follow the system that I put in place. I also label my baking containers. I love to bake. So my sugar, my flour, baking soda, powdered sugar, cocoa, like everything that's in a container, I label. And then I even have labels that I put for we all have like our own cups because people leave cups around and it was driving me crazy. So I assigned each family member a specific color of cup. And I put a template or what is that called? When a map or a way to remember who has what color, whatever that's called. Becca's not here today, guys. She's got the flu. So I'm recording this on my own. I'm sure she would have thought of the answer, the word I was searching for. But it says like what my color is, what my kids' colors are, what my husband's color is, so that if the cup gets left out, I'm like, okay, this is so-and-so's cup because that's your color. And it also makes sure nobody else takes your cup and uses it. That might be a little much, but that was necessary. And then of course I label my spice jars. I'd like to decant them into the same style of decanter so that they all look the same, and having a label on them just keeps it clean and simple. I also love to use it to manage all the cords in all of for tech devices, for, the different things that are going into the back of my TV. So I know this is the DVD player, this is for the speaker, this is for, whatever it is. So it's really clear. I just, print it out. I leave enough of the tape so I can fold it in half around it. And it just serves as a little label that I'm now looking at easily to see what it is. I also use it for our cords. I'll label my cords, so it's clear it's mom's cord, because often like the little power cords for our phones and our laptops are really, really narrow. And so I'll label, and again, you just kind of loop it around and fold it in place. And I'm just going to show you by printing this out while I'm talking. And then of course, I will label light switches. If you have one of those light switches that I just made a bunch of G's, it was the easiest thing for me to do. So let's say I labeled this mom's cord. I just circle it around the cord. If you're listening to this, check out my YouTube channel to see everything I'm showing. I match up the corners there, and then I just wrap it around the cord so that I can read whose it is. And there's no sticky part that's gonna, pull up dog hair from the floor if it touches the floor or something like that. So I just wrap it around the cord and seal it, and it's ready to go. But I have like multiple rooms with multiple light switches on the same panel. So there'll be like 4 lights, especially like out to the garage. There's one for the hallway. There's one for the garage lights. There's one, I can't remember what they all go to. I think one that goes to the kitchen. And there's one for, I know there's 4 there, but there's one for something else. But I labeled them because I was constantly turning on the wrong lights and I kept turning them off and on, off and on. So I labeled those. My favorite label maker is my brother P-Touch. And I did look it up. It is available right now at Sam's Club. If you're a Sam's Club member, it's on sale for $27.87. And it comes with a black on white cartridge and a black on clear cartridge. So you get 2 full cartridges, which last a long time. The normal price, if it's no longer for sale when you check this out, is $32.87. And you can get them on Amazon. You can get them at any office supply store. But this is my favorite brand personally. And I really looked at buying another one so I could maybe like have it be my product of the week and share. And I realized this guy still works really nicely for me. So I want to, I didn't want to spend on something I didn't really need. I have what I need. It functions great. All right. That's it for the tool. If you find ways to use a label maker that I have not shared, please post in the thread for this episode 212. Would love to hear additional ways to use it. So now for my main topic, which is holiday prep for ADHD brains. It is here. The holiday season is approaching. It is my favorite time of year. I look forward to it all year long, pretty much from March on. Once it starts getting warmer, I just can't wait for the cool weather to return. So I love the weather. I love the excitement, but I struggle with all of the changes in my routines and in the structure that makes it hard to keep up with my systems. So Thanksgiving, when this episode comes out, is 2 weeks away, and Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa are only a few weeks after that. So it is a busy time of year, and I needed to support my own brain to start pinning down, like, what do I need to do to prepare? And so I thought I'd share some of the things that I do in the hopes that some of my strategies and prep might make your holiday season a little bit more enjoyable. So before I get too deep into the strategies, I do want to share why the preparation matters, because with ADHD, we will resist slowing down. It's just, well, I don't know, I'm just going to go, I'm just going to get it done, because that urgency, that tension that it creates fires up our brain and creates a lot of interest, but it also creates a lot of stress. So the American Psychological Association says that the holiday season raises stress for a large portion of people, and that stress commonly interferes with enjoying the season. So I'm all about reducing that stress because I want to enjoy the season. Further, a study by Harvard Medical School stated that changes in routine, extrasensory input, and extra decisions due to the holidays can overload executive function skills for people with ADHD, and preparing in advance reduces that cognitive load. So this is the what's in it for you to stop and slow things down a little bit so you can do a little bit of prep. So let's get into some of those strategies. The first is, and this is the first thing I did when I was feeling this overwhelm a couple of days ago, is to just set a timer for 20 or 30 minutes and just do a brain dump. Get all the holiday tasks, everything that's swirling around in your brain, out and into a list, right? We want to get it out of our head. So I'm going to recommend a physical list. And I'm going to really, strongly encourage you to write it down. But if you just are really resistant to that, get it into a Word doc, a Google doc, something that, you're getting it out of your head and it's something you can see. make categories for this list. So you might have, depending on what holidays you celebrate, or if you have birthdays during this busy time of year, or maybe you're preparing for the new year, whatever it is that you have coming up event-wise, make categories. So I had Thanksgiving and I had Christmas. And my husband's birthday is also over Thanksgiving. So I had a little list going for that. You want to consider things like, what gifts do you need to buy? What travel arrangements do you need to make? That pulled me in so quickly. And I have to tell you, oh my gosh, I was shocked at how much the flights and everything already are. And apparently I was able to see the trend. They're really going up and they're filling up. If you need to make any preparations for guests, if you need to plan a menu for what you're going to be making or taking, if you're invited somewhere, if you're going to be ordering cards, need to pick up stamps for those cards. If you have any events that you're going to attend, are they already on the calendar? Whatever it is, make a list, get it all out of your head, dump it out. You're going to take your list and label everything, doing a quick triage. So now you've dumped everything out of your head. In this same time frame, I just want you to go through and mark things as this has to happen with an M, like must. N for it's nice if it would get done. I'd really like it. But again, it's not a must. And then the third is delegate, things that you want to pass off to someone else. You're like, okay, that has to happen, but not by me. Or it'd be nice if that happened. It'd be more likely to happen if this person did it. So if you sort that into 3 columns where, again, you're looking at those things to help make sense of your list, or you can sort it into 3 columns with these are things that I need to do myself. These are things I'm going to delegate. And these are the things I'm going to let go of. So 2 different ways to structure the things, just going through the list that you've already dumped and marking them with must do, or they're nice to do, or you're going to delegate, or rewriting the list into columns, assigning things for yourself to do, to delegate to someone else, or to drop completely because there's just not going to be time for it and it's going to create stress. One little tip to ask yourself, I love a question when I'm thinking about, especially for the holidays, I want to do everything. Like literally I looked at my list and there was nothing I was willing to let go of. So if that's the case, remember with ADHD, everything feels equally important. Asking yourself a question can help to realign you with your priorities. And so a question like, if only 3 of these things on my list can happen, which 3 matter the most? So it's kind of forcing you to prioritize. It doesn't mean you're only going to do 3, but it really helps you to highlight these 3 are the most important things. What tasks fall under those 3 that I have to make sure I'm prioritizing? Again, just to help make your list a little bit more balanced with what's most important. So maybe you can see where you might need or be willing to let things go. Okay, number 2, you have your list. You've prioritized the things that must get done, that you hope will get done, or things that you plan to outsource. Now we're going to block some time to do those things. Remember, it's just a plan without structure if we're not creating that structure to implement it. So we want to go the next step and look at, when do I have time to grocery shop, or what week? You've got a few weeks here. So thinking about, if I'm going to buy a turkey, am I buying it frozen or buying it fresh? Do I have room? Like, this is another maybe task. Do I need to clean out the freezer before I can store the turkey? Or do I need to make room in the fridge? And then I need to block time to buy it a few days before Thanksgiving because you're not going to store it as long as it's not frozen. Block time to clean up or prep if you have guests coming, if you have company, if you're hosting an event. Again, building in that time in advance so you don't arrive to maybe like the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. You're like, oh my gosh, this is my day. I still have to shop and I still have to clean everything. And there's not enough time to get everything ready. I want you to create some calm and ease by looking now at what time would work for you. Again, generally, don't make it too rigid. Like, I'm going to go at 10 a.m. on Wednesday morning, whatever. Give yourself a little buffer, because what if you don't feel great on that day before and that you've left everything, which is what we tend to do, and we just depend on our future self showing up in the mood, ready and able. And you might be in the mood and willing, but maybe you're like my assistant, maybe you catch the flu and you don't feel up to it. So having those things done creates, again, less stress, because you're like, all right, well, at least I've done these things. I can just ask somebody else to, put them in the oven or whatever it is. And then most importantly in this stage is block time for self-care. The holidays can be a very stressful time. There's so many things going on and we are thrown off of our routines. So maybe blocking time every day to go for a walk, to have some quiet time. If you love a nap, block time for, just a 20 or 30-minute nap so that you're giving yourself time to recharge. Prioritize that self-care. And then I thought, so those are the two things I have done to start preparing for the holidays. I decided then to ask ChatGPT, what did they recommend? So these are ChatGPT tips. Again, take what works for you, leave the rest behind. I found some of these interesting and other ones I was like, oh, that felt stressful to me. So do what works for you. They recommended blocking specific times on your calendar. So they said, if you have to wrap gifts, plan like a Saturday from 10 to 12. If you have to order, or like if you have to buy plane tickets or reserve hotel room, like block time on an evening to, after work to sit down and do that. They recommended like a Tuesday from 6 to 8. Block time to set up prep for a guest. If you have guests coming, whether they're going to be staying on the sofa or staying in a separate guest space, having the linens cleaned, having everything ready to go so that it's set up and ready to go. And again, to set up a block of time to focus on self-care, making it really specific. Some people really like their time just to float and just to know they intend on doing it throughout the day. Do what works for you, but keep it on a list if you're not going to assign it time so you can check it off. So if the time feels too constrictive, allow yourself to let that go, but create a prompt to remind you of your intention so that it still happens. The other thing that they recommended was if you struggle asking for help or you need to set boundaries around your time, have some scripts ready. So I love this. So a few of these I thought were really good. So they said, if you need to say no, this was something that they said you could use. They said, try something like, thanks, that sounds lovely, but I'm keeping things small this year to avoid burnout. Can we do something else instead? And maybe have, a couple of things that you'd be willing to do. If you need to ask for help, and let's say you're hosting Thanksgiving, can you bring a dessert? That would be great, because I've got the main dish all squared away. And that would let me focus on the main dish, right? So I'm not getting distracted, or maybe you can ask for a side, but saying, if you could bring this, it would be great. And that would free up my focus on the main dish. I love this one so much. So I'm going to actually use this one wherever and whenever possible. So to set arrival and departure expectations, let people know if this is important to you. This is definitely important to me. I'm an introvert, so I get worn out I love the holidays and I love to see people, but I do get worn out by them being here. So something like, oh my gosh, we're so excited. We love having you here. We have a plan to eat around 5 and social time is going to end around 8 so we can wrap things up and make sure that we are able to rest. So it's letting people know not only what time you plan on eating, but what time you plan on wrapping it up. If you have those people that just kind of linger, it can really create, you find yourself like trying to do little things that let them know you're ready to wind down. You start putting away food and doing the dishes and they're still just, kind of hanging around. So letting people know a beginning and an ending time, if that's something that would make it easier for you. Some other things to be aware of, and this is mine, but I looked up the deadlines on ChatGPT, is be aware of shipping deadlines. So if you plan on mailing cards for Thanksgiving or holiday cards, deadlines specifically for Christmas is what came up. For the United States Postal Service, for first class mail, like letters and cards, is December 17th. Priority mail packages is December 18th, and Priority Mail Express is December 20th. UPS had December 19th for a 3-day select package option. So check the deadlines if you're using like FedEx or other ones, but those are the ones I looked up because I always need to know what is the deadline. So I want to get them out with even time to spare, because I don't know about you, but things I've been mailing have been taking longer than they typically estimate. So I want things to get there on time. Some travel tips that ChatGPT had for specifically people with ADHD brains. I love this. They said, pack early and use a checklist and set a phone alarm to remind you when you want to start packing. So they recommended 3 days before start. I can't do that. If you can do that, great. That's my timer. I have to wrap this up. But also I have a workshop in 10 minutes to workshop. They also recommended booking, and I am all over this, booking a nonstop flight, or if that's not available, the fewest transfers. I also like to go as early in the day as possible, because if there's any problems, they tend to get worse as the day goes on. And I don't want to get stuck anywhere if I'm flying. So I do try to book nonstop whenever possible. So remember, less cognitive load equals more stress and more enjoyment. It's all about creating an ADHD-friendly holiday season. So now for our book of the week, I read a brand new one. So full disclosure, guys, this does not come out until April 14th of 2026, but I want this on your radar. I got an advanced copy from NetGalley. Thank you so much to NetGalley. It is by Rainbow Rowell, and it's called Cherry Baby. I loved this. It was so fun. I love Rainbow Rowell's work. She's also written Fangirl, Eleanor and Park, and Slow Dance. I loved all of those. So in this book, Cherry is married to Tom, and Tom is in LA making a movie based on his wildly popular webcomic. Cherry is back at home. So they're not together, and he is in LA making this movie and promoting it. And Cherry is actually a character in the comic that's named Baby. And the caricature of Cherry has her heavier than she is in real life. And she is heavy in real life, but she has even wider hips. She has a double chin, and she's incredibly large chested. And she's getting a lot of attention for being the famous Baby from his very popular webcomic. And there's no getting away from it, or the fact that her husband is now not coming home. So it's a romance about a second chance at love. And it's for people who understand how rare it is even to get a first chance. I highly recommend you marking your calendars, get it on your lists, because it's a good one. I gave it a 4.5 out of 5. All right, now for my quote of the week. If you haven't got any charity in your heart, you have the worst kind of heart trouble. That's by Bob Hope. I love that. It's the holiday season, so it's the time to think about others and what we can do for them. And that might also be part of what you're doing when you start to prepare for the holidays. That's it for this episode. I'll see you soon. Tally ho.